back to the Writing Biz. Today, my guest is Ray Hartjen. Ray Hartjen is a California-based writer, musician, and author of 5 books with a 5-decade career across various industries. A dedicated storyteller and cancer survivor, he balances his creative pursuits, including the band Chronic Padres, with his professional background in marketing and business. Today, we're discussing how sometimes there's an unexpected detour in our journey through life that can lead to the need to reinvent ourselves. Ray, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thank you so much, Laura, for having me. I appreciate your show, and I very much appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. So you've taken many turns through your life, with storytelling remaining the one constant. Can you share what challenges you faced at creative circumstances where you had to basically start over?
Yeah, I pivoted many times throughout my professional career, and some of those were intentional pivots, and some of those were unintentional pivots. I've lost a few jobs through layoffs and things like that. It allowed me an opportunity to reinvent myself and commit myself to what I wanted to do most, as opposed to maybe kind of falling into the routine of doing what you do because that's what you do. That every day that ends in a Y tends to be kind of a similar to the previous day that ended in a Y. But the real pivot for me occurred over 7 years ago. On March 11th, 2019, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And for those of you out there in the audience, if you're not familiar with multiple myeloma, well, neither was I on March 11th, 2019. But it's an incurable blood cancer, but one that is treatable. And so I started the treatments within a week, I think, of my diagnosis in 2019. But through that, Laura, I went on a learning journey, right? It was a journey that I wasn't conscious of making decisions to learn, but some learnings were heaped upon me. And based on that, I recognized that, hey, I've learned something about myself. I've learned something about this disease. And it allowed me to create these very conscious, very intentional, and very purposeful pivots that I still work on and examine today if I need to pivot to be able to do what I want to do with the people I want to do it with. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. My story is similar in that I developed some heart problems, which developed into a series of other problems. But I was in a position where I was running a huge nightclub at the time. And I was working 80 hours a week in smoke. I realized that I couldn't continue on that path. Sitting in the hospital after my first heart attack, I asked my daughter for a pad of paper, and I made a list of things that I was good at, things I wasn't, what skills I had, and decided to go back and get my degree in graphic design, not with the intention of working for anyone, but to start my own business.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time ago. Since then, I've worked for myself and developed the life that I have. But as my health situation got worse, I had to take even further pivots. But I still run my own business and do a podcast and write. My life now is where I can do things that I enjoy doing, like painting and drawing and reading, all the different things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear your story and other people's stories, because often I find that when they have been challenged, they've made that pivot, just like myself, they found they're in a position where their life is so much better for it.
Yeah. Once you start identifying what your purpose is, what you want to do, and you start doing those types of things, following your passions, so to speak, you live a richer life, one of increased satisfaction, happiness, peace of mind, and we all deserve those types of things. I speak with folks all the time through podcasts and other interviews. They talk about, like, they hear my story and I had a health scare, and it scared me into doing something. And too often we wait around to make intentional, purposeful pivots in our life, and we're kind of forced into it. The catalyst is a health scare, right? What I really want to stress to the audience today is don't wait until something bad is diagnosed in you to make the change that you want to affect in your life and in your purpose. And for me, like I said, it was exploring the cancer space with a growth mindset. Laura, when I was first diagnosed, the treatment plan was really spelled out for me. I would do induction therapies for 3 to 6 months, and then I would have a stem cell transplant. I was destined to be the best cancer patient ever. It's like 3 to 6 months for a stem cell transplant. Man, I'm going to do it in 3 months, maybe even faster than that. And I'm going to be in great physical condition. I'm going to spur up my workouts even higher than they were before. I'm going to clean up my nutrition a little bit. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm just going to be the best cancer patient ever. Laura, about 10 or 11 days later, it was a Friday night, and I went out to dinner with my wife, Lori, and our son, Raymond, and I was absolutely exhausted. I mean, so exhausted I couldn't even make sense of the menu. And it was that learning moment. I learned that my whole being was more than just my physical being, that it also constituted for me my mental side, emotional side, and spiritual side. And I had neglected those. And in just 11 days, they had dragged down. So when I thought, wow, man, I just learned something about myself. What if I approached my illness, my life, with a growth mindset, with that beginner's attitude that we all had when we were children? When we ran outside on a summer day, we didn't know anything. We were open to learning and discovering. We didn't have any life experiences yet, so we weren't in our way. I've tried to do that. One of the things I wanted to share with you and the audience today was a simple timeline exercise that really helped me with my pivoting. In a timeline exercise, you can follow along wherever you are. If you have a pencil and piece of paper, that's great. If you don't, it's a simple exercise. You can do it in your head. Just draw or envision a horizontal line, left to right. And then at the far left-hand side, make a little tick mark or envision a little tick mark. And on the far right side, do the same thing. So for those geometrists in the crowd, you end up with a segment. Under the left-hand tick mark, write the letter B. That's going to signify your birth. And on the right-hand side, because you guys are way smarter than I am, you're probably way ahead of me, write the letter D. That's going to represent your death. So what you've just created is a timeline of your life, your time on this planet. And I used to facilitate this exercise, Laura, in a time management course that I facilitated in my professional career. And the introspective part is taking a look at your timeline. Just where do you feel you are on your timeline? Where do you believe you are on your timeline? And intellectually, we might know that, hey, tomorrow's not promised and all that. Sure, but where do you feel and where do you believe you are? And Laura, for years, I always put myself right in the middle. I'm going to live forever. And if not forever, at least to be like 100. So when I was diagnosed, I was 54 years old. And revisiting this exercise as part of my fighting cancer with a growth mindset, I realized that if I'm being intellectually honest with myself, my tick mark is much further to the right than the middle. So let's put it over there. Now, the difficult part for me was, what does that mean to you, Ray? And for me, what it meant right away kind of popped into my head is that for far too long, I've taken time for granted, much like a lot of humans do, right? And so I asked myself another question. If you take time for granted, how does that manifest in your life? And then it dawned on me, well, I tend to take people and relationships for granted because I take time for granted. And that really, those realizations in my head kind of led me down another path, another pivot. And that is, what do I want to do and who do I want to do it with? Well, that has led me to working for myself, writing books. I have 6 published books at this point in time, working on the manuscripts for number 7 and number 8. And re-emphasizing the relationships that are most important to me. And like I said, we all deserve peace of mind, joy, satisfaction. And this is a couple of big learning moments for me that I wanted to share with you and your audience to hopefully have people incorporate into their lives as well.
That's one of the things that I considered in my evaluation because I had 2 young grandchildren at the time. And like I said, this was a while ago because when I'm 21 now. But I knew that I wanted them to be one of the most important parts of my life, that my spending time with them and enjoying them was very important to me. So that's how I built my life. One of them I homeschooled for 4 years. I'm very close to them. We do all kinds of things together. And that is the grounding that I had in my life that helped me decide what could I do to where I had that time available to spend with them instead of just working all the time, which is what I was doing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I hear that. My wife and I, we're expecting, our daughter is expecting her first child, our first grandchild. And,
wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm hearing your stories and just hearing the joy in your voice and this irreplaceable time that you prioritized and you spent with grandchildren. That's fantastic. It makes me smile. And I hope I get the opportunity to do the same.
Well, like you said, it's a mindset. If you make room for it, you'll have the opportunity. And they're a gift. I have children as well, and they were a gift also, but grandchildren is a different thing.
So I've heard, and so I'm looking forward to experiencing.
So a person is at that point where they want to make some changes, hopefully not due to a health scare, but they want to make some changes and build a life that they are more proud of and happier and more joyful about. How would you suggest that they evaluate and set a plan to get started on that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And my recommendation is firmly planted in identifying your core values. Once you identify your core values, then you're able to frame your thinking, frame your belief structure, and frame your behaviors to be congruent with their values. What typically happens, what causes a lot of conflict and stress in people's lives, is that their behaviors contradict their values, whether they know their values and have articulated them or not. An example I really like to give folks is when people say, like, family is my number one value. Yet at the same time, they find themselves working 80 hours a week on a job, someplace that takes them away from their family. They have to make ends meet. It's their job. They have to work, right? But there's that conflict that they take home, that stress that they take home. They want to be a present parent, for example, or a present caring spouse, or whatever family is defined for them. But they find themselves forced through other circumstances to do something else. When you behave in contra to your values, it causes stress, dissatisfaction, a lack of joy, so on. However, if you can, identify what your core values are, articulate them, begin to build those into your life. And an example I like to give is myself. When I first started identifying my core values back in the year 2000, and over the last 25 years or so, my core values have been relatively consistent. They've been family, friends, fun, fitness, education, and challenge. And as I share that with people over 25 years or so, people ask, well, like, where's your job in there? I'm like, my job is not one of my core values. Yet, my core values are all over the jobs that I have. See, I like to work in a team environment. And with my teammates, I want them to be friends, sometimes maybe so close as friends that they might be considered family, right? I want to be challenged in my job and learn and grow in my job. So, hey, without even trying, I've ticked off family, friends, education, and challenge. My core values are in my job. So I encourage everybody, try to identify what your core values are, define them because they're different for you, and revisit from time to time because your core values tend to change. What you might consider to be a family core value when you have small children might be a little bit different type of family core value when your children are adults.
The main reason I wanted to have you as a guest and discuss this is I know that a lot of writers and people in the writing industry are in the process of or have had to reinvent themselves. And it's interesting to hear how you break that down and you're able to articulate the power of being able to do that and the power that making that change can add to your life.
Yeah, it starts with values and then goes on to identifying your purpose, your passions. There's all sorts of those great cliches. If you could do something if you do whatever it is that you wanted to do, what would you do if you didn't have to make a living and all those types of things? But yeah, values leading into purpose, understanding. I think, what an interesting model for some folks to use was called the cognitive triangle. That's when your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors, maybe you get kind of caught in a cycle, but it's the realization using a tool such as the cognitive triangle that a change in one of those three variables has an impact on the other two. So it's not just like, hey, what you're thinking drives your behavior. Maybe if you change your behavior, you can change what you're thinking. And a classic example used in that case is, if I could only motivate myself, I'd go to the gym and work out. You can swing that on the side and say, how about you go to the gym and work out, and maybe you'll find your motivation there. So changing your behavior can actually change your thinking and your emotions. For a change in your thinking can change your behavior and so on. So keep exploring out there, writers. We've got a difficult job, right? As any type of creator, there's a whole lot of things to overcome, and particularly that overcoming maybe a fear of failure. But if anybody can do it, it's you. Be the best you can be. Don't try to be somebody else because everybody else is already taken, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, do you feel that you finally settled into where you want to be?
Yeah, another great question, because that's what you do, right, Laura? You ask great questions. I do feel as though I'm where I want to be right now, but the contemplative introspective journey should never end. I'm always asking myself, what do I need to learn? What do I need to relearn? What perhaps do I need to unlearn to get me to the place that I want to be, right? So it's not just with me kind of constantly evaluating myself, taking a temperature check, so to speak, but I have those with questions with others. One of the honors of my life is being able to interact with other patients, caregivers, and allies. My second book is a cancer patient memoir called Me, Myself, and My Multiple Myeloma. And because of that, I've been able to connect with individuals on an intimate level from Australia, New Zealand, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, all through Western Europe, and of course through the United States as well. And it's been the honor of my life, and talking with them and hearing their stories, seeing how they're growing, and seeing what I can maybe borrow from them or get inspired and motivated by them to explore more about myself and what changes I want to affect to become happier, more joyful, and have some peace of mind.
Did you start writing later in life, or have you always been a writer?
I have always been a writer. Throughout my career, first of all, it was in finance, and made a big pivot into organizational development, human resources, marketing, public relations, and then back into marketing again. And in a lot of those positions, I had to do a lot of writing. I've worked as a freelance sports reporter over time, and the likes of that, wrote a lot of articles, but I didn't start writing books until after my diagnosis. There's some things I wanted to do, and things I wanted to accomplish, and some projects that really intrigued me and interested me that I put off, that I didn't want to put off anymore because the timeline exercise. So I went from shorter form writing into longer format writing. The first book, Immaculate, How the Steelers Saved Pittsburgh, that was published in December of 2022.
Wow. I saw that you are very involved with racing. That must be interesting.
Yeah, and that was spurred on by a book. In fact, I'm looking at the book right now. I just picked it up in my hands. I wish you all could see it. Way back in the day, people like you and I, Laura, we can remember the Scholastic America catalog, right?
Yes.
Our teachers passed it around, and inside these little tissue paper thin catalogs were a treasure of books and posters and things like that. And I discovered a book in the early 70s called the Indy 500, 30 Days in May, written by a gentleman named Higdon. And I found that book like in 1972, 1973. I was like 8, 9 years old. That book was a chronicle of the 1970 Indianapolis 500. And as a kid, I was just captivated. I read that book. It captured my imagination, stoked a passion in me. I reread that book multiple times a year for darn near a decade. I loved it. It inspired my passion for the event, the Indy 500, and for the sport of auto racing and motorsports in general. And for years, I thought about how about rewriting that book? Again, Hal Higdon's book was a chronicle of the 1970 race. Wouldn't it be kind of, a lot has changed in this space. Wouldn't it be cool if I wrote my own book? Which I did because of my timeline and pushing me forward. Like, hey, why put this thing off? Why not do it? If not now, when? I wrote a book called The Indy 500, a year-long quest to win the greatest spectacle in racing. It's a chronicle of the 2024 race. It starts with the last 2 laps of the 2023 race and goes through to the victory banquet the day after the 2024 race, and covers that entire year. So it's a bit of my homage to Hal Higdon. It's a passion project of mine for the event, which I just went to a couple of weeks ago for yet another time. And it's an interest that I'll always have. And it's been a part of me ever since I picked up that book in the early 70s.
That's pretty cool. And how you segued it into writing the book that you feel you were meant to write. I'm not a race fan.
Some people tell me that all the time. They're like, hey, I don't get racing. And I understand, right? It's like, that's cool. But one thing I would encourage everyone to do is give it a try. And it doesn't have to be a giant event with 350,000 spectators like the Indianapolis 500. It can be just the local dirt track or something like that. Motorsports is so loud, visual, audible sensations you're hearing, but the sights and the smells, you can feel the power as the cars go dry. It's a true spectacle, and that's when people kind of discover it. When they don't watch it on TV or whatever, try to go to a race someplace. Throughout my entire motorsports career, Laura, and writing articles for it and contributing in different places, I went to my first NHRA drag race earlier this year in April as part of my role as being a board member of the Society of Professional Motorsports Journalists. And It was incredible. Not only the fan experience, where every ticket allows you to get back into what's called a paddock, where teams are working on their cars. You can meet your heroes, talk to them, and do all that. So it's fantastic for families. But just the spectacle of what humans have been able to do with mechanics, where they can build a car that in 1,000 feet, they can cover that 1,000 feet in less than 4 seconds and reach a top speed of 340 miles an hour. That's incredible. That's in 1,000.
It's
And then the noise and all that. It was a wild experience.
I've been to stock car races, but I've never been to, and I mean, I live half an hour away from Daytona, but I've never been to one of the larger races. It would be fun to go. I've had many people tell me that once you go, it's very easy to get hooked.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, my sport for years has been billiards and playing pool. So while that excites me, it probably would not excite a large portion of the people listening.
You know what? I had a kind of a surreal experience a few years ago. A good friend of mine goes out annually to Las Vegas to play in a billiards tournament. And I walk into this ballroom I think it was at the Rio Hotel, just off the Script. And I don't know how many billiards tables were there, but there were hundreds. and just the lights coming, the billiard light, table lights coming down from the ceiling, and the glow from all this. And then it's quiet, except for the sounds of hundreds of billiard balls hitting one another. And it was kind of like it was an interesting experience. Surreal. It's like, where am I? What am I doing? And all that. Not exactly spectator friendly with hundreds upon hundreds of tables out there, but it was a cool thing to go through. And I do understand the passion. My buddy Frog, it's a big passion for him.
It can be very intense. Yeah. I have watched world-class players play, and I mean, when playing pool is such an exact sport, it's so exact in how you hit the ball. It's very intense. My son started competing when he was 12. He played in the junior nationals. He also would compete in tournaments that I was involved in putting together with actual worldwide pros like Corey Deuel and other people. A few people I know who they are. But watching him compete against these grown men, I mean, it was hard on the heart. Let's just put it down.
Yeah, it must have been fun too. And the pride.
And it was. He's an exceptional pool player.
Yeah.
He doesn't play much anymore, which is disappointing. But it was insane watching him play and compete against these grown men. And actually, I mean, like, he wouldn't win matches, but he would win games. You'd have 7 games to a match. He might win 1 game out of 7, but he'd win a game against a worldwide pool personality. It was amazing.
Yeah. And
I didn't mean to go on about that.
No,
but
it's never too late for him to get back into it. And
I still have hope for him.
One of the things that I like to talk about with other writers, some of these things that you put aside, you've got an outline made, or you started on a manuscript, but you never finished it. It's never too late to get started.
It isn't.
Again, right? But the best time to start would be now. Let's not, if you're thinking about it, if you've got some interest in doing it, don't put it off until I'll wait until the next Monday or tomorrow or whatever. Do it now. Do it a little bit at a time. One of the things I really like to emphasize with writers is that you do not need to sit down and write 15,000 words. In fact, I don't think there's a single writer out there that writes anything good that sits down and does 15,000 words at a time. But there's a ton of great stuff out there written 500 words a day. So just chip away at it, folks. Have your idea. Take a look at that timeline. Where are you on your timeline? What are your core values? What is it that you want to get accomplished and with who? And then get off and doing it. It starts with the first word. And after you have 1 word, hopefully you have another 499. And in 3 months, you have yourself an entire manuscript for a book. So get out there and get it done, folks.
I can't agree with that more. You won't know where you can go until you take that first step.
Yeah, and there's lots of different little tips. Some people have a certain time that they write. Some people have a certain space that they write or whatever. Find what works for you and get it done. You're the one that's got it inside you. You can do it, and it's going to be great.
So you write both fiction and nonfiction, don't you?
I do. I started out with nonfiction, Laura, and my first 4 books were nonfiction. But I don't read a lot of nonfiction. Other than researching my nonfiction books, what I like to read for leisure are novels. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to see if I could write something that I'd be interested in reading. And so I wrote my first novel. It's called Outflanked. It's an espionage thriller. At least I hope so, because it actually says that right on the cover, an espionage thriller. So it'd be super embarrassing if you read it and you don't think it's a thriller. But anyways, those are the types of books I like to read: spy books, covert operations, and things like that. So I wanted to challenge myself and write that book. I did. It got some good response. And so that encouraged me to write a follow-up to it, which came out in October of last year. It's called The Iranian Fiasco, which is it's book number 2. It's the same characters. It's book number 2 in this kind of little mini series I've had. And as I was bringing that to market, I started the third manuscript. I've got 2 fiction books, 2 novels in the market, and 1 coming soon, hopefully mid or later part of this year. But my next 2 projects that I'm also working on, those are nonfiction. So back to those. But I do have other fiction ideas in mind, and it was fun to do that. It's a much different process than writing a nonfiction book.
It is not a nonfiction writer, but I've been a copywriter for decades. So I've done a lot of nonfiction writing. But I get more joy out of the fiction writing. I'm a fantasy writer, so it's very imaginative and creating environments and characters. It's just more fun for me.
Yeah,
but
you get to
very different.
You get to be a world builder, a dialogue builder. It's different than having kind of a journalistic reporting hat on in a nonfiction type of environment. So yeah, it's much different, but I found it very rewarding. It's like the writer and performer of music in me. It's a big way to try to get your creative energies out. And it was an interesting challenge and one I liked. So I'll finish this third fiction book, but I've got a couple of ideas, not only just building on this series that I've built, but other standalone novels as well. So looking forward to diving into them. But I need more hours in the day.
Do you traditionally publish, or do you self-publish, or like a hybrid?
I do both. I do both. My nonfiction books, 3 of the 4, were published by Morgan James Publishing out of New York and North Carolina. But my novels were not Morgan James books. And so I decided to self-publish those through my own imprint. It's called Two Red Chairs Publishing. They're books that are distributed through Ingram, so they are available wherever books are sold. And through that imprint, what I've been able to do is work with my father, which has been very rewarding. 40 years ago, Laura, he wrote 3 novels, historical westerns. And 40 years ago, the publishing business was much, much different, going through a literary agent and trying to get them published, and they were never published. But when I self-published my own 2 novels, I realized, hey, man, I can do yours, Pops. So it was cool taking manuscripts that my mother had typed on an electric typewriter from my father's hand-scribbled the manuscript on legal pads. So getting those digitized and published, there's 3 of them. One came out last month, one came out earlier this week, and the third and final one comes out next week. So super excited to get those not only in his hands, but in the hands of his friends and his network to check out. They're really cool.
Sure, that must be very exciting for him.
Yeah, it's exciting for him. He was super excited to get the advanced reader copies. And here, every writer feels this when they hold their own book in their hand. You're just like, wow, it happened. I remember writing it, but wow, now it's an actual book. I do also emphasize for anybody out in the audience that's a new writer and you're working through maybe your first book, that is not the finish line when you hold your book in your hand. That's really the starting line, because you need to get in the hands of your readers. And marketing and promoting your books is every bit as important as writing your manuscript, getting it published.
Absolutely. And it takes time and effort and a plan.
It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of planning, yes, to be effective. You're always marketing.
How do you market your books? Yeah. I'm sure that the nonfiction is a little bit different than the fiction.
Yeah, and it's another good question. Thanks for asking it. With the nonfiction books published through Morgan James, there is a little bit that they do, but quite frankly, they would have to prove me otherwise for how much promotion that they do, how much their salespeople go around and do. It's really my work in marketing and promoting my books. And so I do an awful lot of social posts related to my books and different campaigns, because they are so different from a book about the city of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Steelers, to a book about being a cancer patient, to a book about the Indy 500, to espionage thrillers. They're different. So I have different campaigns based through social media, and then paid campaigns that go along with that as well. So it's not just organic posts, but experimenting with paid posts, particularly around, say, football season and Father's Day for the Pittsburgh Steeler book. That would be an example of a paid ad to expand reach, expand impressions, and hopefully convert and send people to either my website, the book's website, or some bookseller's website. So those are the primary ways of doing it. And then there's also a lot to be said for good old-fashioned meeting bookstore owners and managers, particularly independent booksellers, and seeing what type of events that you might be able to participate with them, book fairs, speaking opportunities. Readers like to hear from the writer. I'm trying to find ways to get incorporated into maybe some book clubs, giving away my book at a big discount for a group volume, but then showing up at the book club and talking about the book, answering questions and the like. I think there's opportunity there, trying to figure out how to do that at scale.
Oh, that's a great idea. And it would be fun.
Yeah, one of the funnest things I've done recently was I spoke with a bunch of fourth graders in Fishers, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis, about the Indy 500 book. I gave their teacher a couple of cases of the book because I wanted to stoke it within them, the same passion that I got from Hal Higdon's book. But nowadays, it's like, hey, why don't we do a Zoom? Absolutely. I would love to do a Zoom with your students. So I got to talk to them about not just the Indy 500 and writing that book, but what it's like to be a writer, what you need, what type of lifestyle it is, how to learn to become a writer and the like. It was super rewarding hanging out with that class for about an hour on Zoom. One of the funnest things I've done lately.
That's wonderful, because I have long thought that it would be really beneficial for writers to participate more with really young people like that, to incite the fire in them that they could do something with writing. I know I would have benefited from that tremendously. I started writing when I was really young, like 5, 6 years old.
Yeah,
but I would have benefited from having somebody tell me the how.
Kids are generally much more curious than adults, I find, right? But like once people grow up and to be their teens, I'm using air quotes here, they know it all, right? You can see it from kids like, yeah, I'll never be a parent like my parent. I'll be so much of a better parent because I know it all, even though I'm not a parent. So young kids have that curiosity about them. And everyone likes a story, particularly young kids. No one is better positioned to tell stories than a writer, right? So reach out to the kids, whether you have kids' books or not. The interesting conversations you can have with them and their parents, and center around the work that you do and the work that you admire in others. It's a rising tide for all boats. So get out there and interact with the kids. They're open books. They love to talk to guests and hear from folks, particularly in school, that aren't their teachers.
My grandson, he's in high school, my youngest grandson, and they just recently had some job fairs, and people came in from all different kinds of businesses. I live in Eastern North Carolina, but all different kinds of businesses to talk to the kids. And no one was a writer. So I'm thinking next year that I would love to go to the school and talk to them about that. Because now that self-publishing has become such a huge thing, it's easier, I think, for young people to see the possibilities, as opposed to having the gatekeeping situation that in my era that we had. I think that writing is a wonderful thing that they can enjoy, but also, too, in their careers, they could use writing to communicate better and facilitate their employment and get something out of that. I don't think that we talk about writing enough with young people. That's just all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and writing is a wonderful way to be able to communicate, even if you don't share it with others. There's a lot of folks out there that get a great deal of benefit from journaling. They write in their diaries, and it's just a way to better clarify their thoughts and emotions. There's a lot to be said for writing, and almost everybody can do it, right? A lot of people joke that they're horrible at math. For some reason, we as a society let you get away with that. But nobody really says, I'm horrible at writing. But it is a craft, particularly if you want to tell a story. And it's a craft that, like any other trade, time with the tools makes you better.
I've belonged to several writing groups, and one of the things I always try to communicate is you can learn proper grammar and construction and all those different things. The most important thing is the story.
Yeah.
So don't not tell your story because you're uncomfortable with these other things. Tell it and then work from there. I have seen people hold back because they are embarrassed about their spelling or it's not grammatically correct. And I think that's just the wrong way of thinking about it. Figure out what your story is and then work on those pieces.
Absolutely. Some of the coolest, most creative stuff out there, you'll see something that do it a lot. With poetry, where there's no punctuation, no capitalization, they're just telling the story in the way they want to do it. And you frequently, I think, sometimes I'm going to say, you frequently see it in music. There is, Laura, a formula for music. If you're a country artist and you want to make a typical country song, it is verse, bridge, chorus. There's your song, right? But then there's other songs out there that are complete rule breakers, right? And one of my favorite songs, Elton John, Tiny Dancer, it's a rule breaker. It's a timeless classic song. So don't get hung up, writers, on structure, grammar, things like that. Get the story out there. And sometimes the more non-traditional it is, the funkier it is, there might be a really cool market for it. It's like painting and painted works. There's a little something different for everybody, and find your niche, tell your story the best way you know how, and you're going to feel better about it.
I agree. I really appreciate you taking time with me today, Ray. This has been really a valuable conversation.
I hope so.
I love how you dig into these subjects and your understanding of the psychology behind how we reinvent ourselves.
Yeah, I hope it's been of value, not only to you, Laura, but also to your audience. I did want to leave this episode with a simple, I don't know, it's not really a call to action, but it is if you out there, audience members, choose to. If there's anything I can help you with, particularly if you are facing a serious health issue, whether it's multiple myeloma or something else, I will tell you, I told you earlier in the episode, it has been the honor of my life, with the exception of marrying my wife, Lori, and us raising two great kids. The honor of my life has been interacting with patients, caregivers, and allies through my book, Me, Myself, and My Multiple Myeloma. If there's ever anything I can do for you, audience member, please feel free to reach out to me on any social media channel. My handle is my name, Ray Hartjen, RayHartjen. That's my website address, rayhartjen.com. It's my email address, rayhartjen@gmail.com. It would be my honor to hear your story and to listen to you and connect with you and engage with you. And I offer my assistance, my help in whatever way possible for me. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you.
Thank you for that. I have a friend of mine going through a very serious cancer situation right now that I will be forwarding your information to him. And hopefully he'll take advantage of it because I think that he could really use somebody to talk to.
I mean, we all can use somebody to talk to. We're all in this together. Messages for everybody out there, you included, Laura, is you are stronger than, but together we're stronger still, right? It takes a village. I benefited greatly from a cancer patient support group soon after my diagnosis. They taught me how to be a cancer patient, and they became role models for me, like right away. I'm like, I want to be like them. I want to help the people that come behind me, however I can do that. I want to be a resource. And that's what led me to writing Me, Myself, and My Multiple Myeloma. Hopefully it's a resource. It's actually a fundraiser. My writer's proceeds go to benefit the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. So very much wanted to be by the community, for the community, to benefit the community. But yeah, we're all in this together. And so when you're feeling strong, find somebody out there that you can help along. And if you ever need help yourself, reach out to those that are positioned to get you where you want to be, where you need to be.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
Like Ray mentioned, you can learn more about him and everything that he does at rayhartjen.com. I'll put his socials and, of course, his website in the show notes. To learn more about my podcast, you can visit the writingbiz.com. Sign up on the website to be the first to learn about new episodes. Until next time, take what you've learned and put it to work in your own writing biz. Ray, thank you again.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.